Hey, what's up, guys? So I just recently picked up this battle damage Luffy from Target. Figured why not give a review, let you guys know what I think about it overall. I know I've slowed down a little bit on collecting, but I figured why not pick this guy up. He was actually discounted when I grabbed him, but I'm not going to be considering that with regards to today's review. I actually haven't even opened up this guy myself, so let's just do that live here. I guess first off, let's show off the packaging. So front side of the paneling looks pretty good. So this is some of your starter Luffy, so not going to be a lot of extras with it, but pretty cool looking. Obviously you have your side panel there. This side just a little bit of window with a bit of a screenshot there. Back, your typical posing options we have for Luffy here. So as I said, not much to go off of, but it is a basic starter Luffy. I think the intention is to buy this, then want to buy more in the future. Not sure if I'll do that. At one point I wanted to grab the Zoro, but mainly this guy being discounted for around 20 bucks is why I picked him up. He typically retails, I believe, for like 35. All right, now that we have him out of the packaging, let's do a quick, as I've done before, aesthetic, articulation, accessories, maybe not in that exact order, but we got him out here. So this is what Luffy looks like, and sorry for the lighting if it's not the best, but I want to try to show him off as good as I can here. Sometimes I think the lighting is a little bit goofy when it comes to the brightness. I know I've turned the lights off before to try to show him off better. Probably okay just showing it this way for today. But I think it looks pretty good. I mean, it looks like Luffy's got the scar on him that you can maybe hopefully see. And other than that, he has a bit of battle damage. It's supposed to be like he has little scuffs on him. You can kind of see that. His skin has like these little marks. You kind of see the one on his foot there too. So very marginally battle damage, but that's kind of the intent for this variation. But I would say overall for the aesthetic for the character, I think it looks pretty identical to Luffy from the anime. Maybe some joints are a little bit obvious, like the ankles, you clearly see those balls sticking out there. So it's not exactly the most well hidden joints. The elbow, same situation there a little bit. So for aesthetic overall, I think Luffy will give an 8 out of 10. I will quickly also do a size comparison. So if you have like a Saiyan raised on Earth Goku, just trying to compare, they're pretty similar. I mean, they're not on flat surfaces here necessarily, but honestly, they're about the same as far as the height they come up to. So kind of that 6-inch figure line makes sense as far as the general main character for each show. All right, when it comes to the accessories with Luffy, as I mentioned, there's not a whole lot here, but it is a budget $35 figure. So keeping that in mind, when trying to review the accessories, we first have these hands, which are just curled fingers pretty much at the end. Somewhat of your open palm a little bit, just with, as I mentioned, curled fingers at the end. So he has fists that come on him by default. These are a little bit more combat ones. They're kind of similar, but they're a little bit more, as I said, like you're about to engage a battle. These are a little bit more just rounded, whereas these, I feel like all the fingers are separated a little bit more like you're about to attack somebody. And then beyond that, there's just one right hand of a pointing finger, as you can see here. So that's it for the hands accessories, which is pretty basic, pretty standard you would get here. And then with that, there's also two faces. So we have the general grinning face he comes with. Then we have one with an open mouth, kind of smiling, but also looking a little bit creepy. And then one even crazier with his eyes just kind of going nuts, and definitely a little bit more of that battle damage. Sorry, I know the lighting is not great, but you can kind of see above his eye a little bit more of that battle damaged appearance for that face. So kind of a fun one that's maybe unique to this specific iteration of Luffy. And then on top of that, there's obviously his hat, as we look like a Amish looking Luffy ourselves here today. So we have the hat, and kind of weirdly, I don't know if you can put the hat on him in general. Probably not. Yeah. So his hair by default is a little bit all over the place, like a little bit of a wild bedhead look to him. So to use the hat, you presumably have to swap out the headpiece, and you would put this hair, which is like more of a flat hair, and then you have the bangs here. So you'd put the face on and then put the bangs on the top. So it allows him to wear the hat with the outside of the hair looking the same, but the top of it's going to be flat. So some options there, whether you want the hat or not. I guess I would probably always have Luffy with the hat though. Maybe have it in his hand, something different potentially. So for the accessories overall, as you mentioned, not a whole lot here, but because it's a budget figure, I don't really expect a whole lot. So I think once again, we'll give this one an 8 out of 10. I did just now actually notice in post, I didn't really look at the back of his character. It's kind of funny. They have these battle damage marks. Once again, hopefully you can see them. There's kind of one right there. But then there's also the like made in China stamp that's also where some of the battle damage is supposed to be. It's very hard to see. I apologize for that. But instead of having, normally it's on the bottom of the foot, so it's kind of like unable to be seen. Maybe because there's texture to his sandal, they chose to put it on his back, but kind of a weird spot. You can kind of see it a little bit better right there. Yeah. This says like made in China, and it's coincidentally near all these like battle damage spots. So it's a little bit odd to have that branding at that specific location, especially if you saw him from behind. A little bit weird. I did also figure I should show you guys how I plan to have him on my shelf on display. So I figured I'd swap out the one hand for the pointing finger. Also put the alternate head on with the alternate face and the hat. I think it looks pretty good overall. I will say the hat doesn't fully hold in place. If you move it around, it will wind up falling off. Also, there's a bit of gap. You can kind of see it. Maybe I can kind of play around with it, but between the bangs and the hat, it doesn't fully fit flush. You see a little bit of the skin there because how I have it now, maybe this is wrong. Maybe I should play around with it, but that's what it looks like when I put the headpiece on with the bangs without the hat. So a little bit strange. As I said, maybe I'll play around with it. Maybe it fits a little bit better if I have it in certain positions. Also kind of strange, the previous head that came on the figure that I took off. So we have the head here, for example. This little extra piece was like part of this, almost like it plugs in the back and has the last little piece of bangs. I don't really know why this comes as a separate piece. Like it just sits on that spot because there's like a little hole to put it on there, and it's like the back of his hair. Weirdly, maybe it's for other headpieces. I'm not entirely sure why they would need this separate piece, but let me know in the comments below if you guys actually know the answer to that. But just wanted to show off Luffy, primarily how I plan to have him on display. I think you have to have the hat either on him or in his hand, right? All right, now let's quickly look at the articulation overall. So moving the head around, pretty good rotation, pretty much all the way. You can actually have him look backwards, which is terrifying. Some exorcist stuff going on there, which I guess Luffy has a lot of elasticity, so it kind of makes sense. That's the thing maybe you'd be missing when it comes to regular accessories, is like a punching hand or something with showing off the powers that he has ultimately. So his head, as I said, rotates very well. It's like insane how much rotation that gets. Neck, a lot of movement there. He actually can look like straight down. So honestly, pretty effective there. Obviously, you go back too far, then you have a little bit of a gapping at the chin there. But let's look at the arms. This should be good. It's a little stiff when I try to go straight back. Maybe it's a little better after some usage. But you do get, once again, some gapping there in the shoulder if you get a little bit too crazy with it. So keeping that in mind, you can't be bringing it out here too far without it looking a little bit wonky. Like that on the front, for example. See if I can show that. Like there's a lot of separation with the shoulder there, which looks very bizarre and clearly like a toy at that point. But decent movement and range. Elbow is well past 90, so that's awesome. I feel like I don't get that a lot these days on some of the figures, especially some of the bigger guys. Wrist movement, it's a little tight. Not a lot of rock to it. I guess when you go this way, there's decent, but sorry if a lot of this I'm showing. I'm trying to make sure to have it on camera. Let's make sure the other side's the same. Yeah, you get a little bit of that gapping there once again if you get a little bit too crazy with the shoulder. And good range though. Let's see the ab articulation. Pretty good. I mean, he has a bit of a soft rubber shirt on, so there's gonna be some limitations there, but we get decent bend, which is kind of important for the guy whose power is pretty much to bend and to stretch out a ton. Decent looking back, but then once again, you do get some gapping there if you push it too far. Look at the hip range. That's pretty close to 90 degrees. So I would say very effective. I mean, there's a lot of characters that the articulation's not super important, but I would say Luffy specifically, it's probably the most important part for this character. All right, now looking at the other parts of the lower body, the knees, about a 90 degree there. That looks pretty good too. I mean, you see the joint a little bit with that, but I mean, it's a figure with a very thin body type. That's kind of the same way with a lot of the female characters they've made, where the joints are somewhat more obvious because they're more visible with the thinner bone structure, I'll say. And then not much in the chin, obviously. It's pretty much just one piece of plastic there. And then the ankle, actually very good movement there. The sandal actually separates from the foot. I don't know if I expected that to. That's kind of cool. You can have it stretching out beyond that. So pretty awesome when it comes to the articulation for this guy. As I said, it's not always important. Like with somebody like Frierin back there, not super critical. I feel like the aesthetic is the most important thing for that character, but Luffy, it's huge. You have to be able to move him around in different positions, especially if you get those other iterations where you have like the long stretching arms and stuff. So overall for articulation, I'll probably give this guy a little bit better score. They're giving him a 9 out of 10. Probably just the torso having more limitations with that rubber as far as his shirt goes is the only thing that could be a little bit better. But I realize, once again, budget figure, and because you want to make it look aesthetically pleasing, there are some options that you can't always do. But at a 9 out of 10, he works pretty well overall, I'll say. So for an overall rating for Luffy, I'll probably want him going with an 8 out of 10. I debated going with a 9, but after moving him around a little bit and seeing that there is quite a bit of gapping in those arms, especially when you try a whole lot of different poses for him, that does take away some of the aesthetic of him. So 8 out of 10 is still pretty strong though. But let me know what you guys thought. Is this a character that you've picked up yourself? Is it a character that you're considering getting? Do you have a lot more in the One Piece line? I think a lot of the villains go for a much higher price point, which, as I said, I think the implication is this character kind of gets you started in the line and then you gradually pick up those other ones and then wind up with a massive One Piece collection at some point. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Share all your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.